Hello, students! Today we're going to be talking about the three ironies in A Midsummer Night's Dream. So this is Mimi, by the way. You need your packet, page 10. If you don't have your packet, please go to Schoology and find the digital copy and take notes on a piece of paper. No excuses. You also need your book and a pen or pencil. Let us begin. Okay, so 3 types of ironies. There is situational irony, verbal irony, and dramatic irony. Usually in everyday life, when we say, that is so ironic, usually we are actually talking about situational irony. Situational irony is when what happens is the opposite of what is expected, usually very humorous or very tragic. So let's say you're watching a movie and there's a sailor and he's out on the ocean and he's surrounded by water and he dies of thirst. Even though he's surrounded by water, obviously you can't drink ocean water. And if you don't believe me, go to the beach right now, take a big old swig of a wave and see how that tastes. That's really ironic. You would think that the last place you would die of thirst is surrounded by water. Verbal irony, when what is said is the opposite of what is true or what is intended. So when you do this on purpose, it's called sarcasm. For example, a man gets a flat tire and he yells, "Oh, fantastic." Usually you can tell by someone's tone that they're saying the opposite of what they really mean. That is sarcasm, but it's also verbal irony. Dramatic irony is used by Shakespeare throughout this play to create humor. When the audience or reader knows something that the character does not know, this creates suspense or humor, or sometimes both. So for example, you're watching a horror movie and you can see the monster sneaking up on the main character that the main character has no clue. Excuse me. If you ever go to the movies and people are yelling at the main character, "No, turn around." That's the impact of dramatic irony. So let's talk about how these 3 ironies show up in Shakespeare's plays. The first example, Helena, has a sort of ironic name. She is named after the world's most beautiful woman according to mythology, Helen of Troy, who was kidnapped and they literally, according to mythology, had a war to go get her back. But in this story, nobody loves Helena, at least not in the beginning. A quote where we can see this is Helena says, No, I am as ugly as a bear, for beasts that meet me run away for fear. She's being kind of pathetic and emo there. This is situational irony because it's the opposite of what you would expect. You would expect someone named after the world's most beautiful woman to have a little bit better luck with love. So that is a little bit of an inside joke that Shakespeare puts there for those of you who know Greek mythology. Okay, next example. Robin accidentally anoints Lysander's eyes with the love potion when he was supposed to anoint Demetrius, which causes Lysander to now hate Hermia and love Helena. A quote where we see Robin doing this is, "Night and silence, who is here? Weeds of Athens he doth wear." Because remember, Oberon just told Robin, go put this spell on, you'll know who it is because he's wearing Athenian clothes. And Robin's like, all right. This is dramatic irony, because remember, dramatic irony is when the audience knows something the character does not. So we, the audience, are watching Robin sneak up on Lysander. We know that Robin's supposed to bewitch Demetrius, but he does Lysander by mistake. And so we as the audience are like, oh my God, what's going to happen? So write this down in your notes. Okay, next example, I have left out the part with the quote and I have left out the explanation because I want you to try to figure it out yourself. So the next example I have is when Lysander is now in love with Helena and Helena is turning around and she is scolding Lysander because she assumes he is mocking her as he proclaims his love for her. Go ahead to page go ahead to page 96 of your book, and I want you to look through the Shakespeare side. Yes, the Shakespeare side, because when you write an essay about this, I want you to cite the Shakespeare side. See if you can find a quote from Helena where she is scolding Lysander. The quote I chose is, "Never did mockers waste more idle breath," which means nobody's ever gone to so much trouble just to make fun of me. This is dramatic irony. Why do you think it's dramatic irony? This is dramatic irony because we, the audience, know that Lysander loves Helena, but Helena thinks it's a prank. Again, a prank is dramatic irony. Okay, next example. We have Bottom saying on page 76, go to page 76. "I see thy knavery. This is to make an ass of me, to fright me." Go ahead on page 76 and remind yourself what is going on at this point in the play. So what's happening here is Bottom now has the head of a donkey. He re-enters the spot where they're rehearsing the play, and the workmen have run away from Bottom because he now has the head of an ass. But Bottom thinks they are teasing him. I think this is verbal, situational, and actually I think this is dramatic irony as well, because what an ironic choice of words. Keep in mind, Bottom has no idea that his head has been transformed to that of a donkey. And yet he chooses to say, "This is to make an ass of me." They're making an ass out of me. That's what we say when people are like pranking us. But he literally has the head of an ass. Okay, next example, Titania awakens and falls in love with the ass-headed Bottom. Go ahead and turn to page 78 and see if you can find a quote from the Shakespeare side where Titania wakes up and expresses her love for Bottom. The quote that I chose is where Titania literally just wakes up and says, "I pray thee, gentle mortal, sing again." This is pretty funny because Bottom with a new donkey head is probably sounding kind of like a donkey also. So, "Oh, you sound so lovely." What kind of irony is this? I chose dramatic irony because Titania does not realize that she is under a spell, and she has fallen in love with the ugliest creature possible. Actually, donkeys are kind of cute, but donkey, half man, I don't think he is a gentle mortal, if you know what I mean. Okay, skip to the end. This is a quote from, go ahead to page 158, where Demetrius says, "It is the wittiest partition that ever I heard discourse, my lord." And then later he goes, "Well roared, lion." What's going on at this point in the play? At this point in the play, Demetrius and all the men actually are making really snide, sarcastic comments. So this is verbal irony. It's verbal irony because Demetrius is being sarcastic. He really doesn't think the wall sounds witty. The wall does not sound witty. It is a man dressed up as a wall, announcing that he is a wall. That's probably the dumbest play they've ever seen. And actually, Hippolyta says so. This is the silliest stuff I've ever heard. So he doesn't really mean what he says. And when you mean the opposite of what you say, that is verbal irony. I would like you now to go back to one of these blank spaces, 7 and 8, and try to find your own example of any of the types of irony, dramatic, situational, or verbal. I want you to explain what's going on at that point in the play, give us a quote that shows where it's going on, and then explain why it's happening. And you're going to have to type this up in the form of a constructed response. So please go ahead and do that now.